In my ever so humble opinion, if you are playing music and your neighbor can hear it, I'm the neighbor, and all of my doors and windows are closed, and I live a block and a half down the street, I think physical assault laws no longer apply. Hee hee hee. Dr. Mecca, don't worry about the colors. It's just in one. I actually have two windows open, the web page and in a dedicated window for the chat. On the web page, they're randomly assigned. So you're this incredibly off-putting green on the web page, and then a very pleasant forest green on the pop-out window. And Jeremy, I think, is rebooting. So uh, Z2400, I'm doing all right. I wish I had a little bit more video game time, but I've got stuff going on. I'm actually, it's not really good music. um, Working on a new video where we all know that the Wii U is inarguably the best of the current generation consoles. It's hardly worth making a video on, right? But I'm going to do it anyway and prove with science that the Wii U is the best. But I thought, you know what? Maybe I should wait until after E3. You know, give Sony and Microsoft a fighting chance. You know, give them the opportunity to actually do something impressive. Probably won't be enough, but hey, I'm a fair guy. Besides, I'm kind of busy and I didn't really want to spend the entire weekend working on that video. So, how about that Splatoon? I've never played it. I tried. Oh, heavens, did I try? But I tried, what was it, 4 hours worth of test fire stuff, and never once could I get that sucker. Just gave me errors the entire 4 hours. Did I ever have problem with Amazon? Uh, Buying stuff from them? Nope. So, hello, Dream Peppers, STL Creator, Matthew, Dr. Mecha, Z2400. I'm guessing Jeremy is rebooting. So we'll just hang out and wait until he comes back. Yeah, I wonder, can I change the colors? Probably can somewhere, but don't care that much. And if Ubisoft announces a new console, oh, that sounds like a wonderful idea that Ubi should totally try. The dedicated Assassin's Creed box. On the other hand, if they came out with the Ubi box and Beyond Good and Evil 2 was a launch game, I'd be tempted. Then again, looking at some of their games from last fall, I don't know how well anything, the hardware or the software for it would work at all. Dream Peppers, yes, I am planning to use science and math to prove that the Wii U is the best of the current generation consoles. How I managed to do that when the Xbox One and PS4 are a technological generation in front of the Wii U, well, you'll just have to see. And if Sony and Microsoft's showing at E3 is just, jaw dropping incredible, I won't do the video and then I'll just tell you all about it. So Z24 says Amazon screwed my shipping and my Splatoon copy should come this Wednesday, but no, I need to wait for this upcoming week to get it. That sucks. Matthew says, hope you include third party support because if you don't, it would be a flawed analysis. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Although I do have another, will this be like the Wii U don't need no TV video? No, it'll be different than that. It'll probably be closer to the 150 games for everything but Wii U video, or the Nintendo Financial Fund video, where I pretty much just talk on camera and give you facts and numbers and statistics and argue a point that way. Um, in a fun, not dry and boring way, I hope. Speaking of for everything but Wii U, I will probably have a new for everything but Wii U video eventually, but that's really going to depend on that's going to depend on when Sony and Microsoft stop making or when anybody stops making PS3 and 360 games, because I think I want the last for everything but Wii U video to be this is the final number. And currently it's at 287 or something like that. I've had a lot of help over the last half year digging up a lot of international titles, a lot of Europe only, a lot of Japan only titles that I wasn't aware of. So the list has expanded greatly. I should do it in the style of a Nintendo Direct parody. Yeah, I don't really have the resources to do it, to quite do anything like that, because I pretty much am stuck shooting here in my room, and I can maybe mimic it if I think it's appropriate, but also have to be careful what I do on YouTube. Don't need Nintendo coming down on me with the hammer of justice, the hammer of copyright justice. Dream Pepper says the next console thing from Nintendo will look modular, so it can evolve and so it can evolve and vanishes the old Nintendo problem. Okay. We'll see. Everyone seems to be talking about a hybrid console, some type of console that it. I will find you, and I will turn your music down. Inconsiderate person. I think it's the church across the major street that I live down the block from. I may have, in fact, some of their, I'm guessing maybe some of their church going peoples came to my door last weekend trying to pitch me on the Bible. I figure if they're going to waste my time on a perfectly good Sunday, I'll waste some of theirs. So I let them do the entire spiel and talk all kinds of stuff. And I said, no, because I'm a jerk. Did I buy the Nindy Humble Bundle? No, because there's not much in that bundle that interests me, except Guacamelee, which maybe I'll grab it just for that. Let's see. Z2400, you think the hammer of copyright justice is bull? Nintendo needs to hire a construction company to rebuild the bridges they burned. I say it's in the past. Let bygones be bygones. I said some things I didn't mean. You said some things you didn't mean. Let's just kiss and make up. Jeremy, where are you? All right. Well, oh, I've got an email. Let's see if that's from Jeremy. Well, he's trying to join, so let me invite him again. Uh, There we go. Let's see if that works. Uh, okay, Z2400. Did something happen yesterday that I wasn't paying attention to? Did Nintendo do something particularly silly in the last day that I'm not thinking of? Do let me know. I hate to be behind on the Nintendo news. Hey, there's Jeremy.
Woohoo!
Did you have to do a full reboot?
I don't know. I've never really liked using Google Plus that much.
No one likes using Google Plus, but
Now we know.
but you have to. And
Yeah.
if you try to talk to me on YouTube, if you do not use Google Plus, I can't reply to you on in the comments. There's literally no reply button. So if I ignore you on YouTube, it may be because you don't have a Google Plus account. STL creator said,
Fantastic.
Rumpelstiltskin 3, you're new. Hello. Do I like memes? If they're funny, yeah. Are we talking about Meme Run? Because I know that got shut down by. That wasn't really. I don't think that was Nintendo. I think that was someone who owned a meme in the game that they didn't get the rights
Right.
for.
Ironically, the guy with the troll face, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. STL creator saying, Z24 is saying that the internet won't let go. I don't know. Sometimes the internet never forgets, and sometimes the internet just moves on the next day. You can have this humongous controversy, and the internet's like, whatever. That was a week ago. That was 1 billion years ago in internet time. So, 360 is getting an emulator. Okay, so let us start the show of. Uh-oh. Jeremy, are you still there? Oh, poo. It's going to be one of those, isn't it? So a 360 emulator can play Sonic the Hedgehog 4. Not sure why you would want to, but well, that's nice. I've never been a Sonic fan. Even the Genesis ones. Never forgive, never forget. Legacy and enemy. And I think Jeremy went the way of the dodo again. So, well, we may not get much done, but hey, nothing happened this week, right? There was like no news, nothing really big. What's next? A swatting? I suppose. Uh, and well, heavens. If anyone's wondering where Zachary is, I think he had to pick up a car. So either he's buying a new car or he's getting one serviced or something to do with a car. Anyway, he's busy. Even Sonic Colors, I heard it was good, but I didn't play it. I think it's a matter of I just personally don't like Sonic games. It's not a matter of no, you're all wrong. Sonic sucks. It's not that. It's I just don't like Sonic. I'm not saying they're bad games. I just don't like them. Did I hear the Uncharted collection does not have multiplayer? I heard about the Uncharted collection. I did not hear that it was dropping multiplayer. I guess that's a little surprising, but did anyone actually play Uncharted multiplayer? Uncharted multiplayer really felt like one of those publisher shareholder type decisions. No, you have to have multiplayer because that's just what's done. you know, um, whether it's appropriate for the game or not. E3 is coming up, STL Creator, and that is nice. Of course, I have to try and decide if I want to use my vacation days to stay home from work. But I was planning on a thinking about a video. I made a joke on Twitter a little while back, saying proposing a drinking game. You take a shot every time a publisher shows off a video game trailer with no gameplay footage, and then you try not to die. So I thought of either recording or live streaming me actually playing that drinking game, but there's a couple problems with that. One, that would probably be from a health standpoint inadvisable because I imagine I'd be drinking enough to do some damage. And it might be funny, but I don't want to hurt myself just to entertain everybody. Um, Also, I don't drink like at all. I've had rum cake before. um, so, I mean, it might be kind of novel and funny to see a alcohol virgin getting plastered at E3 or watching E3, but I don't really want to drink and I really don't want to rupture my liver or whatever because damn well I would be, you'd probably die trying to play that drinking game just watching Electronic Arts press conference. So the Witcher 3 thread got way more discussion than you expected, Matthew. Yeah, it was a good discussion. I'm proud of our game politics community. We are awesome because we don't all agree on everything. How boring would it be if it did, right? If we did. But generally, I wield the mighty blue pen of moderation, and I rarely ever have to bust that sucker out. I think I've had to do it like once this year. So we have a pretty awesome community of game politics. Um, you hear Uncharted 2's multiplayer was great. I actually have Uncharted 1 and 2. I haven't played them yet. Uh, it's on my to-do list. I have a shelf full of unplayed games, and that does not include my um, unplayed and unfinished games. That does not include all my digital games across Steam, good old games, things like that. Do it with soda. Matthew recommend I do it with soda. You know what? I thought about faking it, um, but having never been drunk before, I don't think I could actually fake it well enough. And I don't hang around with people who drink, not heavily, not enough to get sloppy drunk. So I really have no frame of it. Would be if I tried to act drunk on video, it would be really cartoony, which might be funny, but um, I don't know. I thought of it. Maybe I'll call my mom and get her perspective on it. Um, but fill my stomach with a word I can't pronounce. Ethylene. Hmm. Do it with a hammer. Smash myself in the head with a hammer every time there's a trailer with no gameplay. There you go. There you go. Be about the same thing. Just, or just a sock to the side of the head, or maybe bam to the top of the head. That would be really disturbing, wouldn't it? Watch a video of a guy physically abusing himself. Why am I laughing? That's horrible. I have a staple gun. So, yeah, yeah, every single time. Do bingo for E3. To act drunk, I have to tell myself I'm not drunk. Right. All right. Well, it may be a solo show. I'm going to send Jeremy another invite here. Come on, type ahead. Why is this not working? Hang on, I gotta look up. Type ahead for some reason broke, so now I have to go look up Jeremy's Skype name. Hmm. Yeah. Well, Matthew, what are some of the things on your E3 bingo card? Oh, while I'm waiting for that, Rumpelstiltskin asks, "Have I ever played a Metal Gear game?" Metal Gear. Yes, I played. I played the original Metal Gear on the NES, which I thought was meh. I played the Metal Gear Solid on the PSX, and then stopped playing it because the original PlayStation was a completely incompetent piece of hardware that couldn't render a straight line if its life depended on it. So didn't feel like playing that. But I did play the GameCube remake, Twin Snakes, and I liked it when it shut the hell up and let me play. Uh, the problem with Metal Gear Solid, at least the Twin Snakes, is it's an incredibly short game. It's a 3 hour game. It'll take you about 6 hours to get through it because there are about 3 hours of cutscenes and codec conversations, but there's really only about 3 hours of gameplay. It's incredibly short. What gameplay is there is really cool and really fun, but game just doesn't want to shut up and let you play. So played a little bit of Metal Gear Solid 2. I either played a little of Metal Gear Solid 2 or I played the demo. I don't remember which. Great demo, by the way. I've not played 3 or 4 or Ground Zeroes. Um, eat chili every time there's a trail. Eat chili every time there is a trailer with no gameplay. Oh, eat a chili. Oh, so get some habanero or jalapeno or something. Oh man, that would suck. Um, yeah, what kind of brought this to mind was the Fallout 4 trailer from earlier in the week. I was actually going to make a video about that one, um, making fun of the fact that there's only half a second of gameplay in it. Um, and I wrote a rough draft of the script, and it would have been a fairly short video. It would have been like maybe a minute, minute 10. But I went back and I rewatched the trailer, and I believe I was wrong. I think there is no gameplay in that. The scene I thought was gameplay is the really short clip where the zombie creatures are jumping at the camera. But looking at it again, the camera movement is just way too smooth for that. Also, there's no HUD stuff. But the camera movement looks scripted because it's this really smooth back pan. So I'm pretty that that's not gameplay either. Now, it's not as big a deal with a game like Fallout 4 because it's, Fallout 4. Uh, we know how Fallout plays, so you can kind of get away with the sweeping camera pans and let's just show off the environments and some of the enemies and characters and things like that because we all know what to expect from Fallout gameplay. I still find that kind of irritating, but whatever. And I can't even get a hold of Jeremy now. Let's see. Whoop. That's not what I wanted. No. No, stop. There we go. If Super Mario Sunshine 3D HD 2 and Retro Studios developed Metroid Wii U get announced, you'd be very happy. Oh, okay. So if some type of Super Mario Sunshine follow-up, be it a 3D version for the 3DS and HD version for the console, or a straight sequel happened, and Retro Studios did a another Metroid game, you'd be happy. Yeah, I think we all would. Uh, in my very unpopular opinion, I think Sunshine is actually a better game than both the Galaxy games. That's an unpopular statement, but in my ever so humble opinion, I enjoy Sunshine more than. Now I love both the Galaxy games. Two took me a long time to warm up to because it was way too easy, which might be an odd thing to say because I read that it was before I got the game. I read that it was super hard. That it was like, oh man, now this is a challenge. And I said, ooh, okay, a challenging Mario game, bring it on, because they've all, in the last decade they've just been kind of light, still fun, still great, but just not very challenging. So I was really looking forward to that, and I walked through the entire game. I was like, okay, well, maybe the later levels. Nope. Okay, well, maybe he was. I was talking to Craig Harris of IGN way back when. I was like, maybe he was talking about the Green Star challenges. Nope. Nope. Simple. Most of the green stars are just sitting there. You just walk over and grab them. I actually had to stop playing Galaxy 2 for a couple of months, reset my expectations, go back and play it. And once I went back and played it and just enjoyed the game for the masterfully creative game that it is, I enjoyed it a lot more. Once I stopped looking for a challenge, I really enjoyed the rest of the game. I still like Sunshine better than both the Galaxy games. Matthew says I'm crazy for liking Sunshine better. Let's see. We want a bigger hub world and actually be able to seamlessly go to Rico Harbor, Piana Park with the. Oh, okay. So instead of jumping through the painty mess type things to warp over to the other areas, which if you're in the right spot, you can actually see, be able to, Legend of Zelda style, actually traverse over to the various worlds. As long as it wasn't a long, boring walk. Just this really long path around the side of the island. There's absolutely nothing there. It takes literally 4 minutes to walk the whole thing. All right, well, let's go over this week's poll because I think Jeremy is probably not going to make it. Let me try that invite again. Google. All right, so let me. I've got a bunch of emails stacking up here. Hang on. Not get anything. Invite isn't working. I can see in the living room on the main PC, but I'm okay. Center. All right. No, send me a direct message on Twitter, which I'm not paying any attention to. Well, Jeremy, I did send you another invite, so I'm going to continue on with the show, and we'll see what happens. All right. So the poll this week asked, "Do you love hatred?" Obviously, the game from I think Destructive Creations is the name of the studio. This was actually a really slow poll to get started. I think most people just don't care. That seems to be it. So, do you love hatred? 156 people voted. 17% said they hadn't played it yet. 69%, by far the winning response, said haven't played it and not going to. 2% said played it and hated it. 4% said played it, thought it was meh, and 8% said played it, loved it. I have not played it. I was curious about it. I I was curious about it. We've talked about this on the show before. Hey, Cecil. We've talked about it on the show before, and I have expressed a desire to try the game to give it a go. I'm not $20 curious. It's kind of like Gone Home. I'm curious to try that game. Not $20 curious, but I think it's on sale at GOG. I may pick it up for $5 if I think of it. Um, so I have watched a couple video reviews and a few early Let's Plays, and it looks kind of meh. All the I think the Metacritic score is like in the 30s or 40s. All the reviews I've read have pretty much said that it's a mostly competent twin stick shooter that's just with a admittedly very striking and interesting visual aesthetic. It's just kind of dull to play. Matthew brings up the AO rating again, and I looked at the ESRB's rating process again, and for I noticed that there was no rating summary, and being that this is a digital title, it might be the case that no one at the ESRB actually reviewed the game, that this is one of the ratings that was assigned based on a form that the publisher fills out. They get for digital releases, you can just fill out a form and submit it, and the machine goes whir and spits out a rating. Now there are random audits of this stuff to make sure that it works, and you would think such a high profile and controversial game like Hatred would be audited, but it makes you wonder, if you're a conspiracy junkie, if Destructive Creations deliberately, because a lot of us have been pointing out, why is this rated AO? It's really not that violent. The only thing different about this game is it specifically tells you to go kill innocent people. That's it. It's not any more gory or violent than anything else. In fact, it's significantly less gory and violent than a lot of other games that are rated M. It's just the theme and tone. So it would be interesting. So an interesting conspiracy to chew on is Destructive Creations basically selling on controversy, and that's it. And filling out their little form in a way that makes sure they get an AO rating, just so that they can sell that, as a bullet point. Holy crap, it's an AO! Only the 26th game ever to get an AO rating. Not saying that did happen. I'm just putting it out there. So let me read through the It got an an AO for being way too edgy. You know what really struck me most about the game is how poor the AI is. The the innocent people in the game that run from you kind of lightly jog. There's no one who's like, "Oh, holy crap!" I'd be running my arse off, man. I would be hauling booty. Most people are like, "Oh no, a guy with a gun! Lightly jog away! Lightly jog away!" If they run, some of them just kind of stand there and are like, "Ooh, butterfly." Just not the best AI in the game. I mean, I suppose you don't want all of the targets to be Olympic sprinters. You get into a crowd and you're like, everyone's gone. Be like, "Oh, I have no one to shoot." Hatred guy in the world of Flash people who just, Now, would the game have worked any better if instead of a bunch of innocent people, it was like a barbershop flash mob or mimes? Z2400 says that Mortal Kombat 1 is more brutal than hatred. Hmm. Hmm. Um. Yeah. 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 In hatred, you shoot people, and the execution, so far as I've seen, there's a few face stomps. There's stabby and there's throat slit. There's shoot in the chest, shoot in the face. There's stab knife straight through skull. That is one hell of a knife, I tell you what. Um, one of our readers actually mentioned that. Let me see if I can find it real quick. One of our readers said that the AO is maybe a fitting punishment for inaccurate marketing. I asked what that meant, and Kayla Kaze said the marketing made it look like an extremely sadistic torture porn scenario, when in reality the executions are quite tame. Um, it's an interesting way to look at it. The executions do. I mean, in the trailer, it's boom, 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 execution, execution, execution. In the game, they're just every once in a while. And it is kind of funny because if you execute someone with a cop standing next to you, the cop will just kind of stand there and patiently wait for you to finish before shooting. I mean, I guess that's a gameplay choice because it would be, well, I guess it could work either way, but it does come off as kind of funny that the cops just kind of, oh, you're stabbing this guy in the face. Well, do your business, and then we'll interact with firearms. So, oh, you can burn people. Yeah, you can blow people up, and hopefully there's a flamethrower. But it's interesting. The game, it's hard to figure out exactly what tone they were going for, because the hatred guy's comments are so stupid and goofy that it's hard to take seriously. But on the other hand, it seems to be, with the black and white and the executions and the people, oh no, please don't kill me. There seems to be kind of a tonal incongruity there. Um, a hatred guy is constantly spouting stupid, nonsensical stuff that ends up being really funny, and I wish I could remember some of the lines. Yeah. I am the hatred that dwells in the bullets that pass through your soul. It's like, what? Sorry, what? Damn emo poet. Um, Z2400, ESRB doesn't play the games, they just get video files from the devs. Based on that, they make a rating. It can be that the hatred devs exploited that. That's true for retail games, but they do also play some of the games that they get. Uh, so it's case by case. It depends. Usually, though, it's written descriptions and watching footage. But to be fair, you don't need to do any more than that to accurately rate a game. I mean, we're all gamers. Anyone in the shout box, how much time do you think you would need with a game to accurately discern its rating? 20 minutes? It kind of depends probably on how damn long the intro is, right? I mean, maybe Monster Hunter might be one of the longer games because it's a while before you actually get to monster hunting, so you can see how visceral and gory the combat is. But I think really any one of us could look at a game for 10 minutes or less and say, M, E, T, because it's the same crap for the entire experience. It's not like you're playing an E-rated game and then suddenly a head explodes at the very end, unless we're talking about the original Bionic Commando, but that predates the ESRB rating system by some years. So, in God of War, you get health by killing innocent bystanders. Same with hatred. In fact, that's the only way you can get more health, which makes no sense. But kind of, I have to wonder at what point, where did Destructive Creations draw the line? I mean, did they say, you know what, we could have put children, innocent characters running around, but that would be too far. You almost feel like they should have just gone all the way. Put children in there. Put the elderly. I want to gun down people on walkers. And pets. I want dogs and cats rolling around so I can run them over with my stolen cop car and light them on fire with a flamethrower. Just make it absolutely as repugnant and abhorrent as you possibly can. Earn that AO. If you're going to go for it, go all the way. So Zen says, you keep getting the you're not allowed to join this video call. Well, you're welcome to stay and chat. Don't know what to do. Sorry. I guess I can stop the broadcast and, yeah, well, What do you think, Chet? Should I stop the broadcast and relaunch the show, see if I can get Jeremy in here? Let me know in the shout box. So continue one-man show or stop it for a couple minutes, restart it, and see if we can get Jeremy on in here. So let me know what you want. So hatred, bummer. I was hoping I had high hope. No, I didn't. But it's a shame. It's a shame. I also wonder if I mean, because they've got this, huge guy with a deep, menacing voice who keeps talking about those worms who infest the soul of the world. And it's that dumb thing. And I wonder how the game and the reaction to it would have differed if they really tried to mimic what your standard mass murderer is, which is not this huge, hulking, menacing brute. It's usually just some average guy or kid who's kind of dorky looking. That may have been, if they tried to make it you understand what I'm trying to go for? If they had made the protagonist one of those real people that I never thought it would be him, and that's what they always say, I wonder if that would have served the game better or just made everything worse. I have no idea. Stop and relaunch. Leave the kittens out of this. Okay, I'm gonna stop the broadcast. Everyone sit tight. Okay, so let us move on to our next topic. So again, thanks everyone for participating in the poll and putting up with my rambling for the last hour. So now that we have our guest, let us move on and talk about, well, let's leave Witcher 3 to the end. Did you see the Fallout 4 trailer, Jeremy?
Yes, I did.
Actually. Are you a Fallout fan?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I played a little bit of the first two. I really got into it, of course, on 3. I enjoyed some of New Vegas.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's, I think, all of them. Well, other than like Fallout Tactics or something, but
we just don't talk about that one.
Okay, so as a fan of the franchise, what did you think of the trailer that was released this week?
I kind of liked it. I mean, I think they're going to show more later. This feels kind of like, hey, here's a hint. We're going to go ahead and get the announcement out of the way, but we're going to have more later.
Well, I think that's fair, being that Bethesda has its own presser this year.
Right, and I'm seeing more of that. Nintendo did it too, but with this one, they're like, okay, we're going to have, I guess it's dealing with the Vault 111 is what everything kind of points towards. They show the interaction with the dog and everything, but it looks like they were going to go more into the actual history, maybe even playably, of how the whole thing started, because they had all those cutscenes or all those parts of it showing kind of the world before. And that would be a take.
Is there a singular continuity throughout all the Fallout games, or are they kind of like The Legend of Zelda? It's just a new story every time.
No, it's supposed to be one world. It's just we're seeing different parts of it. It's kind of like how The Walking Dead is doing. We used to see the East Coast. Now they're going to do one on the West Coast, and kind of show, because given post-apocalyptic, they might as well be entire other worlds from each other. And that's kind of how they treat this.
Okay. Now, I was bothered by, as I always am, because I'm a stick in the mud, that there was no gameplay footage in this. Does that bother you when you see trailers of games and there's no gameplay footage? And at least this appeared to be all in-engine stuff.
I'm about to say, it did look in-engine. That's a lot better than some of the other ones I've seen, where they're like, oh, it's a glorified CG video, and beyond that, you're not getting anything. And people have already been complaining about the graphics and pointing out flaws, so they didn't show like the best they could do, which is good.
Well, at least.
User.
Well, true, but at least unlike others we could name, Ubisoft, you look at that trailer and you say, okay, they're definitely not over-promising. I believe they could actually deliver on that. It doesn't look so good. It's like, whoa, no way, man. They must have figured out amazing ways to optimize their code. And because when we saw the original trailers and guided walkthroughs for Watch Dogs, we're like, holy crap, that is amazing. And then it came out and it didn't look anywhere near that. You look at Fallout 4 and you're saying, okay, yeah, I could actually see it looking exactly like that, hopefully better.
Even if it looked just like that, I was fine with it because it just means they're going for, I can only imagine how big this area can be,
mm-hmm.
That you're trying to cover, that you're working with. And you've got, the other vaults you'll probably run into if they have multiple cities this time, which I've done before. So who knows?
Now, it's also, I also appreciated that it didn't fall into the trap of all grays and browns, which is an easy one to fall into being a post-apocalyptic world. But there's a lot of bright pinks and oranges and greens and blues. Not quite as bright as, say, the Borderlands games, but at least it wasn't the same really dreary looking game that we've seen a lot of in the last several years.
Yeah, there was Peter Coffin on Twitter. I was talking to him earlier. Kind of a misunderstanding where I guess he took it as being a little more agitated on my side. He was making a comment about how developers have finally realized color palettes again. Ooh. And he was using Fallout and some of the other ones as an example. And I mistook him and I responded back, well, we have all these Nintendo games that have been for this whole time that have been bright and colorful. And he was talking about something completely different. But
Bro, do you even Splatoon?
I sent him an apology. I know that's rare on the internet. I was like, all right.
What's an apology?
Yeah, I know. So if he watches this, it was a sincere apology. I wasn't making it up.
Yeah. So I suppose talking about the Fallout 4 trailer, we have to mention the elephant in the room, the critique that everyone is levying against this game, especially in this progressive day and age. And that is the fact
they chose a German Shepherd.
Once again, it's a dog. Why is it always? Why can't it be a cat? Some people have cats. What about diversity? What about representation? Some people own cats. Of course,
cats, actually.
Of course, if some people have two cats. Of course, if they did add a cat, it would be a white cat, a white male cat.
Yeah. I threw that one off. Sorry about that.
Now, I would imagine that, I think all of the were you able to? It's a full character creator in almost all the Fallout games, if not all of them, right?
You couldn't do it as much, I believe, in the first ones because it was isometric. You were tiny. You change 4 or 5 pixels. But in 3 in New Vegas, you could customize your entire character of how you were and everything. And that's why they were very ambiguous with the openings. They wouldn't show you what you look like. And after, you get shot in the face in New Vegas, they throw you in there. I tried to fix you, and here's what you look like. And you get to kind of make your face.
All right.
If they actually do end up getting rid of that, because I think what you're getting at is that one of the other issues I've heard is that since they actually have listings of this person talking, like maybe an actual set character for once, would be a little different. Because even, what was it, Fallout 3, you had a set character that was your father. He never changed, but you could change your character. They just kind of ignored all the rest of it.
Yeah, well, it's not unheard of to do if the character is fully voiced, to do a male voice and a female voice. They did do that for Mass Effect. And some games, for example, Zombie U, because I'm staring straight at it, Xenoblade Chronicles X, has several different voices for each gender, but the main character doesn't do much more than its battle cries. It has 50 different lines.
that kind of
Hooray,
follows.
we won! You know, you have that line a million
That's
times.
following more of the silent protagonist style, just being a
Yeah,
little more
yeah.
customizable silent protagonist.
So now there was a rumor half a year ago that Fallout 4 was going to have just a single protagonist. It wasn't going to be a create your own character. So the guy we see in the trailer might be the player character you're stuck with. And
it's just kind of weird, as much as they've had customization for so
yeah,
long. It's
yeah.
one thing if, like, we have a world, it's set, we're following the story. Kind of like the argument with The Witcher, where people are like, I want to customize it. They're following a character from a book they started, and they're moving it along. This is, you make your character, you come out of the vault, you explore the world. So it's kind of a step backwards in regards to how they already had it. If they do that, that is.
So, yeah. So Fallout 4, I don't care. I actually tried playing the first one, but I played the first one a couple of like 2 years ago, and that's just a hard game to go back to. I mean, it's like going back to Baldur's Gate. Man, you really have to put your mind in that era of video games to really get around some things that have not been a problem for over a decade, like camera movement and
which game was it again? I didn't hear you.
A Baldur's Gate is one of them. I tried playing the original Fallout, and I was just like, I don't have the patience to put up with this era of gaming. So, yeah. Okay, so let us move on to let's talk about Steam refunds real quick. Steam did the whole paid mods, and people said no, and they said okay, geez. Do you think that's going to happen again with Steam refunds, or do you think this one will stick? Might have to, considering I think they may be kowtowing to European law.
I'm about to say, I think part of this is not so much they're just doing it because they want to, they're doing it because they're legally required in some areas. I talked with one person, he was having an issue with the game he bought, and it was digital. It wasn't even on PC, it was a whole different one, but by his country's laws, they had to offer him a refund within a reasonable amount of time. And he tried to get, recourse in that way. Steam ones, given, their limitations, if you buy a game, and I've had this before, I bought the game, I downloaded it, and I thought it would work, and it ran horribly. I just could not play it. And it literally took I had to get another computer before I could. I would have rather just turned around. It was like, 2 or 3 hours is your limitation for how long you can play. I'd rather have just turned around and went, okay, no, this is not going to work. Let's just return it, Or if you start playing it, it's just absolutely abysmal. It kind of protects them a little bit against people with green light games and things like that, where they're just putting them out and trying to get people to buy them early.
Yeah.
That'll be an interesting take on how that works, though.
There has been a lot of discussion on potential abuse of the system. For example, shorter games, even the higher profile ones like Telltale's the Walking Dead adventure, Games of Thrones adventure, right. Because the individual episodes you can complete in under 2 hours. So, I mean, so a disreputable gamer could easily abuse this system for lots of free games. Maybe.
Well, I wonder, in regards at least to the Walking Dead and stuff like that, I think they treat it where you get the game itself and the whole counter counts towards that, and then you buy the chapters. So if you're running it, you've only got that 2 hour window, no matter how many chapters you play. I don't know. That would be kind of a weird, but that's how they handle it on like Xbox and things like that. Download it and then you buy the chapters.
Well, I think the potential is there, but a lot of it comes from a perspective of gamers are horrible people and are just out to steal and take advantage and abuse. And some of us absolutely are, but I like that I have the ability to, if I buy a game on Steam and it flat out just does not run on my system, I can say, I can get my money back. I think that's nice. And Steam does say it's going to keep its eye out for abuse. For example, if a single account keeps returning games, right. they might look into that. There has been some. I read an article that was talking about how when you refund the game, it defaults to putting the money in your Steam wallet, which it means that the money is locked to Steam in the future, to Valve sometime in the future, and the
Right.
developer is Ungatz. And there have been some people who have said, well, now granted, if you pull down the drop down, I think you can refund it back to your PayPal or your credit card or whatever. You don't have to put it in your Steam wallet. But some people floated the suggestion, well, what about for a refund? You know, kind of do a split between the developer and the Steam wallet. You have any thoughts on that? Do you think developers, indie or otherwise, are being are at a disadvantage or are being open to abuse unfairly with this system?
Some people can do that, but I don't know. That'd be kind of a different one because depending on the reasons why, if I do get a game and it doesn't really work, even if my specs are there, I've had ones. Metro was a bad one for that. Spec-wise, I should have been able to run it, but it just ran so poorly on my PC at the time. I would have rather just returned it.
Metro Last Flight or the earlier ones?
I think I ended up getting both of them, and neither one of them ran right the first time.
Hmm.
They run great. They run okay now, but they still take too many resources to do it. But I mean, if I returned that, even if the money doesn't come back to me, it goes back. The money's got to go somewhere. Somebody have to pay that. If it cuts a cut, go to the developer, and some go to the Steam wallet. I mean, I'm still losing the money for it, depending on what they're doing.
Yeah,
It's
and
kind of
a lot of our folks in the chat are bringing up something that I didn't get around to saying yet, that I did not get around to saying yet. Whew, English. And that is, I think, the disreputable gamer who is looking to cheat, who doesn't want to spend their hard-earned cash on mere video games, is probably not going to jump through the hoops of buying something on Steam, playing it for less than 2 hours, and then returning it just to, stick it in the eye of the poor dev. They're probably just going to torrent the damn thing. I think anyone who's really going out of their way to to cheat the devs or cheat the system or be a rebel are probably going to pirate it rather than jump through the hoops of Steam's refund service. So I think some of the issues that people are bringing up are interesting and are definitely potential issues, but I don't know how concerned we should be about them. I'm inclined to let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. And
yeah, it's going to have growing pains. That's a given.
Yeah.
We're going to have to weed out what, anytime a store brings in a new policy or return policy, it may be for the betterment of the people that are there, but someone's always going to try and take advantage of it, and they just have to figure out how they want to weed that out and go through it. There's always a growing pain.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now,
go ahead.
Well, as I said, the Z2400's comment that the refund should be on Steam's costs only. The problem with that is, if you return the game because you just don't like it, is that really going to be Steam's fault for getting that? Or if the developer releases a bad game, Steam should have to take the pocket for that when you buy it, because they don't always know if it's going to be a good game or not. They're just there to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that would really be kind of punishing Steam for it as well if the developer just puts up crap and tricks people.
That's true. I don't know. I'm almost, in some ways, of the opinion of if the game sucks, well, too bad. Better luck next time. I mean, when I go to the movies and I see a movie that blows, I don't get my money back. Especially if I sat there. Well, I mean, if I leave in the first 10 or 15 minutes of the film, they'll refund your ticket price. But if you sit there, so I guess it's kind of the same thing as 2 hours. You're leaving in the first few minutes of the film. But if you sit there and watch the whole film, no, you can't have your money back.
Yeah, so it's one of those things they're going to have to take it on a case by case of what they're doing with it.
And also with a lot of these early access games that they're charging $30 for, and they're just completely broken pieces of crap. Although I have yet to see one of the. I've seen a few people like, oh my god, this is the most broken piece of crap ever. And then I go and I look at the trailer, or I look at the Steam page, and I'm like, you can tell just by looking at the Steam page. How did they get you? You should feel silly. But I think in those cases, like, oh man, this is a piece of garbage that I'm not paying $30 for this. So
Yeah.
I
And I'm
think,
wondering
yeah, I think it's a good service. I think there are potential issues, but you kind of have to assume that gamers are predominantly horrible people to assume that they're going to be a major problem. So I think it's a system that we should keep an eye on and react to as the issues crop up.
Yeah, I'm curious how they're going to handle Greenlight games. I mean, can you imagine if people tried to play, get a refund on Minecraft when it first came out because it played horribly versus what it ended up becoming because, well, they were still making it. 2 hours of an early game, and you kind of knew what you were getting.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
All right, let us move on to The Witcher 3, which I have not played, although I own Witcher 1 and 2, and I actually went ahead and downloaded some free DLC for The Witcher 3, even though I don't own Witcher 3. It was free.
On PC.
I couldn't help it. So you have played have you played all of them? Or?
I dabbled around with the older ones. I gave away Witcher 2 on Xbox Live a couple months ago. Your games for gold. And so I played it for a couple hours just to get an idea of what it was so I could compare it when I got 3 because they changed a lot of the mechanics with it, especially combat and just kind of how the world's handled. I've been playing it. I played it for a few hours. I'm exploring around some of the earlier areas. I was going to get more into it, and then I got Splatoon. That kind of broke all my games. But I'm liking it so far, though.
Okay. So the big topic of discussion this week is the use of gendered slurs in the game, which are, of course, directed at the female characters in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what gendered slurs aimed at male characters are. I suppose, a bad guy comes in, raises his sword, and says, "What's the guy's name? Geralt,
Geralt, yeah, Geralt, something like that.
Geralt says, Geralt, you're a dick. Swings the sword. Take this, penis space.
I mean, I haven't got to the point of playing as a woman yet. I've only played as the guy, and people yell all kinds of stuff at you regardless. Like you kind of get a feeling really well that everybody here just kind of hates you. You're different, but then that makes the few people that are kind to you really stick out more. I was walking through one of the villages, and they were screaming all kinds of stuff at me, keep away from their kids and hiding people. And one woman was just like, "Hey, come in, relax." And I was like, "Okay, if you have a mission, I'm going to help you. You're actually nice to me."
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to kind of show the environment and the way that people are. They're uneducated. They're, just kind of pissy people.
Now, does the world of The Witcher have a particular slur for Witchers?
I can't remember the top one. They yell a couple different things, but they've got ones for the fact that you're basically a mutant, that you're a freak, and just all kinds of different stuff. No, I don't think they say arsehole, but I'm sure somebody will. I'm reading the chat.
Well, we all have arseholes, so that's not gendered.
Right.
At least, I think. Ladies, you have arseholes, right? I'm sure you do.
Oh,
I've seen internet videos that confirm this. So,
oh God.
So, yeah, Dr. Mecca, what is that? Is that a slur for Witcher?
No, I think he's trying to say something without saying it, which is not good.
Oh,
he's basically making a word like a word.
Okay, so we're taking one letter earlier in the alphabet. Okay. So, pardon me. So the issue this week was when you're playing as one of the female characters, the bad guys who harass you and try to poke you with pointy objects, in addition to saying mean things like, "Oh, you freak, you horrible person, I'm going to run you through with this here sword and then feast on your entrails," they also deliver a bunch of gendered slurs. I would imagine probably bitch and whore and things like that.
Right, yeah.
And some players have expressed that, I really don't like hearing that stuff. I think the game may have been better served without them. And we actually had a really nice discussion about that in the shoutbox, the
chat,
the comment section of the article. So, and there were a lot of really interesting points brought up. And
Yeah, I went through and read a bunch of those. So
yeah. So I think from a broad perspective, broad not being a gendered slur, um, I would imagine that the use of gendered slurs in this game was probably not a specific conscious choice. I get the impression, having not played the game, so I'm talking out my arse here, that the developers probably did not sit down and say, you know what, we should, when you're playing as Siri, whatever her name is, we should make sure that the bad guys say bitch, because that will, because reason. It it strikes me as more along the lines of, well, it's a woman, that's what you call women, bitch and whore, and that's just what a bad guy would say because they're bad guys,
they're
and that's
meant
what bad guys do.
meant to be offensive because it's meant to meant to go off,
Yeah.
basically. It's
But the question becomes, is the world of The Witcher or the player experience enhanced or improved in any way through the use of gendered slurs? If they were not there, and I don't mean the bad guys are suddenly super polite. Good sir, slap you with my gun. I slap you and challenge you to a duel, good sir. Have a nice day. No, I don't mean that at all. I mean, just remove the gendered slurs. Everything else is exactly the same. Would that harm the experience in any way?
that's always a trickier one because if you go back and look, and I kind of did a little bit of research beforehand, some where people were talking about they would also have the correlation with racial slurs and things like that. And I've gone back and looked at some of some older movies and so forth that cover those topics, that have those, and you could take them out, you could find other words to do it, but they did it on purpose because they wanted to show how these people are being treated, how they're reacting.
Mm-hmm.
But for this one, I need to play it more. I'm going to preface this right there with it. I need to play it more and get to that point and see it. I've only experienced what he has to go through so far, just in the opening areas.
Someone pointed out, Dr. Mecker points out, men could be called bitches, and that's true. Does anyone in your play experience so far, has anyone called Geralt a bitch?
I haven't heard that one. I mean, I hear a lot of stuff. I have to turn it down a little bit because I've had to play it while the kids are up sometimes.
Yeah. Daddy, what's that mean?
Yeah. Oh boy.
Oh, ask your mother. No, don't ask your mother. Wait, what am I thinking?
Oh, it threw me off the top there. But I've seen them also where they're interacting with other female characters in the game itself, like the bartender in the beginning, where some of the guys are getting drunk and kind of threatening her and making comments about just the fact that me and one of my the liked people, the Witchers, are in the bar and sitting down for a drink. The things they say back and forth to each other, they make it's a little pushing, the way they kind of make it a little excessive on the way some of the comments are and how many people say so much when you're walking around, kind of to show you how hostile this world is towards you. Now, the gender-specific ones, like I said, I don't know if Geralt has any specific to him. I didn't pay enough attention to it. I really should have. They could probably tend to trim it back. I'd have to see exactly how much they're using it. I mean, if it's one group and they're saying it a lot, it could just be those particular ones versus is this every single person you run into?
Yeah, I get I don't know, but I get the sense that all of the bad guys are operating from the same script.
Okay, this happens a lot. Then.
Yeah, that would be my assumption. I don't know if this is the case or not, but which leads to an interesting observation is, if the gendered slurs were relegated to a specific, particularly misogynistic, unpleasant character, or even a particular group of people, like there's this band of roving misogynist asshats who live up in the north, and so you fight a bunch of people, and then you wander up north, and you get this group of people who are constantly busting out the gendered slurs, and you're like, oh, God, well, yeah, it's these guys up. No one likes them. And then there's some poor guy who lives in a hut up there, and he's like, hello, madam. Oh, what? I just live up here. Yeah, they are jerks. But I have to wonder if because I've heard some people say that some of the gendered slurs could serve to make it really personal. in the sense that it makes you really want to get back at these bad guys.
That's
And
what I was saying, almost the opposite earlier with, all the people saying stuff as I was going through that town. And the one woman all of a sudden is nice. Like I heard all this bad crap. And then instead of just being someone talking, I was like, oh, okay, you're actually being nice. I will help you and do stuff. And I actually did that for a few of them. You have to decide whether you have to save certain people or what you're going to do with them. And I'm like, okay, that guy was a jerk. I'm stabbing someone.
did you get to the unicorn sex scene yet?
No, I have not.
I've
heard of it.
I don't know what the context of that, if it's a real unicorn or a stuffed unicorn or what, but
would it matter? I mean,
I guess not.
I don't. I have no idea where the context of that's even coming from.
That's true. I mean, if you're bragging to your friends about, yeah, I made it on the back of a unicorn last night. It's like, was it a real unicorn or stuffed? It's like, really? That's your first question, huh?
My priorities are in a weird place. All right.
Yeah. So, now I think it's always worth considering. I think the biggest takeaway here is we are actually having the discussion. We're actually thinking to have the discussion, which I think is a giant step forward in the right direction. I think usually almost exclusively, when people point out gender issues, equality issues, things like that have become real hot topics in the last couple of years, it's never the case where the developer is willfully doing something sexist or racist. It's just done or overusing a trope. Going back to the huge damsel, oh yeah, we're gonna put women in their place, and no better way to do that than with the damsel in distress trope, by gum. Now, I don't think anyone is doing that at all. And to be fair, I don't think I've never heard anyone accuse developers of being willfully racist or sexist or anything like that. I think they're just genuinely not thinking about it. People say, why aren't there more women leads in video games? Well, because most of them are dudes and they just put themselves in the game. Why aren't there more people of color in video games? Are you trying to erase people from color, people of color? No, I'm white. I live with all white people. Everyone around me is white, except for Jerry over there, who's the one person of color we have. So I am white. I live in a predominantly white world. So no one's a person of color because I genuinely didn't think about it. I think that's more what happens. So now that we are more and more starting to think about these things, we are already starting to see more games with people of color in them, more games with female leads, more games that are giving you the for example, one interesting observation for Splatoon that I didn't notice, but is actually an interesting point, is when it tells you to pick a boy or a girl, it doesn't default to boy, and then if you want, you can change it to girl. You have girl and you have boy, and it says pick one. It doesn't default to either one.
I've seen people with the argument for that, either for or against just the placement of the cursor when you start. I mean, if they're both there, if you're getting to the point you're arguing over which cursor is where when it starts, you're going a little far. The fact that they're both there should definitely be lauded. The fact they're both on the cover, the girl is even more predominantly shown. I mean, they really push that a lot. They have a wider variety of skin tones. They've listened for the the issues with Animal Crossing, helping for a lot of that. And that kind of doesn't really, I don't even know what the default is. You just kind of go to the one you want and it's there. The only issue I've really seen is, and I am perfectly fine with having more diversity, more female leads, more people of color, everything. But like I said, some of my favorite games that have done that recently, especially The Walking Dead. And the first one, you are playing a person of color as your main character, interacting with the world, and even having to be involved with issues of race in that, with how some of the people treat you. And then in the second one, you're playing a little girl. And, they give you the opportunity to play in that. You have to deal with the fact she's smaller. She is physically weaker because she is a child. But I think I don't want people to lose sight. If someone makes a character for a story and that's kind of the story they want, not everything should have to be adjustable. But at the same time, if you make a game like Fallout where you make your character, you're doing all this stuff, you should be able to. It kind of goes back and forth. Like
going back to Fallout. Going back to Fallout, if there is a character creator and you can pick your gender and skin tone and height and weight and all that fun stuff,
right.
I think Bethesda would have been well served by replacing the white guy in the trailer with a person of color or a woman or a person of color woman.
Right.
If only because that would have it would have netted them a huge ton of positive press. Now they already have a bunch of positive press, but this would have brought them even more, and that would have just been a good, healthy thing to do. Now it could be the case that it just stars white guy here, and that's why.
I'm wondering on the side of that if that's the story they have, because remember, this is based off a futuristic 1950s style America. It's technology, but 1950s was not good to anyone else, sadly. It just wasn't. And this could be, not a mincing words here, a fallout of that, based on, people trying to get into the into these vaults. You see the groups being kept out where they possibly selecting people, stuff like that. If they could turn it and actually use that story in some way to put a light at that, they could. I mean, I don't know what Bethesda's going to do. They're very good at their storytelling.
Now
we're going to wait and see what they do.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's an important thing to point out is no one is actually saying that you can't have a white guy as a lead in a game. You can't use gendered slurs. You can't use racist slurs. You absolutely can and should when appropriate. The question becomes, is it appropriate? Maybe, maybe not. And even if it is appropriate, is it necessary? Would we be better served not using gendered slurs in Witcher 3? Would we have made the game more appealing, more accessible to more people simply by not using gendered slurs?
Right.
If not using gendered slurs had no negative effect on the presentation of the game world, the story, or players' enjoyment, while simultaneously broadening the appeal of the game to even more people, however small, I think that's worth at least considering, if not saying absolutely we should do that.
I think they need to make sure that if they use it, there is a purpose. It's not just done for the sake of shock value or doing it. Mm-hmm. There needs to be a reason behind what they say or what they do.
Right. Someone in the comments brought up, and this is racial slurs, but someone brought up Django Unchained and Blazing Saddles. Yeah. Two movies that are chock full of racial slurs. However, those movies have to use their racial slurs because if they didn't, they would be totally different movies. Not necessarily better or worse, but different movies. To be the movies that they are, they use the racial slurs in two separate movies, two completely different reasons, but they have specific reasons and goals for using those words.
Well, have you ever seen the movie Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing?
No.
That one,
heard great things about it, but no.
It was a really good one. It's a very interesting one because it showed multiple sides of this small city area. Everyone was racially different on the way they were. You had different groups and how they interacted with each other, and they didn't shy away from any of it. They showed the dark side of all of them, going at each other, the things they said, things they did. But it kind of showed you, if they had taken that out just to get a broader audience, it never would have shown that. It never would have been that kind of movie. To kind of like, okay, this is how people are. You should see what you're doing and look at it and realize, this is a bunch of crap. But it's definitely one I recommend. Just don't watch with kids around. I don't know. The comments here.
Yeah, Z2400. I can't possibly disagree with that comment anymore. So let me read it. I think people should not worry if there are no people of color or female leads in games. It just made it more political, and it will make people just mad. There's more to it, but let me address that. It's always political.
Yeah.
Having what color, what gender you have is going to be political, whether you want it to be or not. Having no, putting people, you say putting people of color in it or putting a female lead is going to be political. Putting a white guy in it or having no people of color is political. It's always going to be. He goes on to say, just look at the new FIFA trailer, people complaining about feminism because the game will have female leagues in the game. For those of you who don't know, the new FIFA game will have female leagues in the game. There are some people complaining about that. No one knows why, because that's not affecting the game in any negative way. I mean, if for some reason you don't want to play as the female league, you can just not.
Well, ironically, when hearing that story brought up more people talking about how FIFA actually, how they treat the actual female leagues, like the stuff they're doing with the fake turf and so forth, what's doing to their legs.
Yeah.
And that actually brought it up to something. That was something I was unaware of. I don't follow soccer, which is why.
Yeah, someone made that AstroTurf comment, and I was like, explain, because I know nothing about football or soccer.
They showed the legs of one of the girls. Actually, did a couple slides, and it lacerated up her leg. It was bad.
Oh yeah, you do not slide on AstroTurf. That does not sound smart. That sounds very painful.
Right, but it pointed out how they're treating the female players versus the male players. It was completely
yeah. And so I think people should let it go. If there's no people of color, females in the games, people should accept their vision. Complaining can only do things worse. No, complaining can prompt change. And I think it's less complaining and more trying to open the discussion. And really that perspective only works if you're a white person or a very apathetic person of color or woman. As a white guy, am I bothered by the fact that there's no women or people of color other than for the lack of variety? Generally, no, I don't really notice because I'm a white guy. But if I have to wonder, if every game or 99% of the game, if almost every single game out there starred a woman, or the casts were all black people, and you'd have the token white guy occasionally,
right?
How would I feel like that? Would I be really annoyed? Would I be bothered? Would I be like, you know what? Could we have a white protagonist? Because I'm a white guy. I want to play a white guy just once without him being the token idiot white guy in the game. So I think I don't think the proper response is this is the developer's vision, deal with it. I don't think that's a healthy attitude to have. I think, because I don't think it was the developer's vision in the first place. I don't think CD Projekt Red was everyone shall be white. The creator has spoken.
Because the way they were doing it with The Witcher, they were following the books that were originally done. They took some creative license with it and so forth, but if they're making their own game, they should be able. If they, more people should be able or capable to make more female characters, more characters of color. Because a lot of the publishers will just shoot it down. Sadly, they kind of push it away or want different things to happen.
That could be a reason. I mean, maybe some part of the license deal said no people of color in this game. I seriously doubt that. I think it was just not a consideration. But that's why I think talking about this, not complaining, because, complainy, whiny thing gets annoying, but talking about this is important, because most of the developers I have talked to, and most of the and that's not too many, okay? But a lot of the developer interviews I have read said, you know what, we just never thought about this. But now that these discussions are being had, we're more mindful of it, and we think, yeah, we could put different types of people in there. That's cool. We like doing that. We could expand our audience and appeal to even more people. I don't think anyone, except maybe real racist, bigoty people, are like, there's black people in this game. I'm not playing that. I know there are some people like that. For example, Rust. You've heard of Rust, right?
Yeah, I have heard of that one.
So they made a change to Rust in which the game assigns you a character. Now, the character is always male, But when you start the game, it assigns you a random male character, and it could be uh, from white as snow to black as however black the game goes. I don't know, but you as a white guy could end up playing a black guy. You as a black guy could end up playing a white guy. You never know. You are like real life. You are born one way, and you're that way through the rest of your life until you get enough money for cosmetic surgery.
Right. You have to deal with it. I mean,
Yeah, and it's tied to your Steam account, so you can't just reload the game. If you start up Steam and you end up as a particular skin color, that is your skin color. And that's really an interesting choice. And there have been a few people on the internet who have said, well, I'm not playing this game because I'm white and I don't want to play a black guy. I said, oh, man, that must suck to have to be, to be forced to play a race that's not your own. Imagine someone out there in the world having to play a protagonist with a skin color that differs from their own. That must suck.
Right.
Some of these people have no sense of self-awareness. It's amazing.
No, they do not, sadly. I've had to see some of these people face to face, and it's really, really sad of how they view stuff. So much as like they see something on a poster for a game, and if it's not what they think it should be, they'll start complaining about it. I've seen stuff like that. I remember people were complaining about playing as Catwoman for a little while for weird reasons.
Arkham City, yeah.
Arkham City, yeah. They were like, I don't play as Catwoman, I want to play Batman. It's like, play as Catwoman. What's the difference? It's a woman.
Yeah, that does strike me as kind of I will only play white males because it's weird to me. Matthew points out he thinks cultural context matters here. The CD Projekt Red, they did not think of people of color because they live in a place where they're 90% white. I would not be surprised if the entire CD Projekt Red team are white guys. Probably are, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not saying that. Well, they're not hiring people of color. They're not. No. Where I work. Let me think. Most of us are white in my job. There's a really good balance. I think it's about 50% men, 50% women, but mostly white. I'm trying to. Yeah, it's mostly white people. So, yeah, again, it's not you. There's the old saying, you write what you know. Yeah, but that's why we constantly learn, so that we can write new things. And I think now that I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in Witcher 4. I think we might see. Well, for example, we saw they added 2 playable female characters to the game. And that was directly due to feedback. You'll notice with the first game they had the playing card. Women were literal trading cards in the first game, and they've moved away from that because some people found it kind of gross and demeaning.
Did not know that.
Yeah, I think you could get now. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat box here, but in the first game, I may have the wrong game, but in the first game, you slept with people and you could get trading cards with women in provocative poses and stuff. So it made betting all the women kind of even more of a game than it already was. And some people said, that's a little gross. But Witcher 3 is still the same game. Jerry still gets his Mac on with pretty much every female character in the game, and the unicorn. So they're still keeping it, but they're keeping that general sense, the sexuality and the fun, but trying to make it more palatable to everyone. They added 2 female characters. That was also in response to stuff. So I think with Witcher 4, I would not be surprised if we saw more variety in the characters that inhabit the world of Witcherland, whatever the name of the place is. I think. Go ahead.
I think they are probably going to listen to the feedback on that. They are going to put more variety in the people in the world around you, as you're stating. Some people are calling specifically for Geralt to be an adjustable character. And what I kind of see about that is, at what point do we go that, okay, this is how the character is created. This is what he or she was intended to be. Just like I don't want to go back and change the character from Beyond Good and Evil, things like that. I don't want to change how I played in The Walking Dead. If they change the world, some people think they should be forced to have to be able to change the main character to fit the person playing. And I'm kind of wondering at what point do we go, not cross that line where this is what the original author or the person created, this is the person they want you to play as, regardless of what they are, versus, trying to make it adjustable for people. Splatoon made sense to make it adjustable. It's for you to play as. Same thing as I think Fallout has always been, which Fallout 4 is going to be weird if they don't. Versus something like this, which is very set with a story. They can, change the world, people around it, but I don't know. The main character is going to be kind of interesting if they have to do that.
I think another important thing to stress, which I know some people get hung up on, is no one is asking for creators to meet some diversity quota in their work.
Right.
No, that's the complete other end of the stupidity spectrum.
Because we hear part of that, like the Zelda argument.
Mm-hmm.
We hear part of it with the Zelda argument where they want, like, Link should be a girl. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, Link's always been a boy. Kind of way it is. Why don't we actually have a game where we play as Zelda? Why does Link have to change? Actually, we have a perfectly good female character. Use her. Like, I still want to know what in the world she was doing during Skyward Sword. I would love to play.
Yeah, I've heard that argument too.
On the other hand,
yeah, although Link has been a different person in a lot of the games, so having the Link archetype be a woman in one of its incarnations might be an interesting spin on the story to see how it changed, to do a complete gender swap. But in that particular case, I agree. It's like, I think it might be more interesting instead of make Link a girl, because whether Link is a boy, he's fairly androgynous anyway. Whether Link is a boy or a girl doesn't really change the game much. But what would is playing as Zelda, seeing it from her perspective and seeing what the hell she's doing.
Imagine the stealth part of the game where you're breaking out of the castle. No one's coming to get you. You're getting out,
Yeah. Great. So back to what I was saying. Yeah, no one is asking for creators to meet any type of inclusivity quota. No one is suggesting that we hand a checklist to all developers to say, you must have at least this many people of color and you must have the blah, blah, blah. No one's asking that. All I think people are asking is to notice trends, and the trend being predominantly white male.
Yeah.
And just think about that. When you're creating a game, think, do I want a white male? What if I went with a person of color? Or what if I went with a female? Or what if I went with a unicorn? Just to get thinking, I might, as a creator, I might want to try something different. And if, as a creator, you in your heart of hearts really want to do a white guy, perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with a white male lead. Nothing at all. In fact, if you could go to Kmart. Why would I pick Kmart? If you could go to any random retailer, grab a random game off the shelf, and have just as good a chance of getting a white guy as an Asian woman, as a black guy, as we would not be having this discussion at all. But the fact is if I go to the toy store, what am I thinking? If I go to the electronics store and grab a game off the shelf, there's probably a white dude on the cover. Almost every time. I've got a whole
wall of gaming right here in front of me. I could just go up and randomly pick one.
Yeah.
And sadly, that's probably what I'm going to get. It's not intentional. It's just games I've bought over the years.
Unless this was the 90s, then it would either be a white guy or some type of anthropomorphic cartoon animal.
Yeah. No Bubsy, though.
Oh, my God. Bubsy or Crash Bandicoot or Arrow the Acrobat or something like that.
Arrow was actually fun.
I always thought it would be interesting to make a fighter game like Smash Brothers, or the Smash Brothers ripoff that Sony tried, starring all the third tier mascot characters from the 90s. Bubsy and Arrow and Crash would probably be the most high profile, but what was that star guy?
That would have to be better than Sony's attempt.
Yeah. So Andrew, most electronics are black. What? I have no idea what you mean. Oh, the casing, like DVD players and the consoles themselves are black. Yeah, people
Game
of color.
purple.
What are you complaining about? Most of the consoles, most of the hardware is actually black. You enjoy your black hardware, and we'll enjoy our white characters on them.
I'm noticing that. I'm looking around my room now, going like, okay, everything is black, but
Well, the Wii U, the last few Nintendo consoles were either black or white. The one before that was
yeah,
black or purple.
or
My
orange.
DVD player and my switcher box are both silver. One of the
Ah, Rise
Xboxes was white.
Good
So,
job.
but yeah, most electronics are very dark in color. Rystar, thank you, Twisted
Yeah,
Ideas. That's who I was thinking of. So, okay, I
I think we
I
can
think
all
we're
agree.
good.
Okay, yeah, it's a touchy subject, but people
Oh
just
yeah.
need to be willing to talk about it.
Oh,
People that don't
absolutely.
down, we never get anywhere.
Matthew brings up a great point. I still think the best way to get diversity is to get more people of color making games.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, yeah, yes, absolutely. Um, I have nothing to add to that. That's a very true statement. As you say, you write what you know. For example, I wrote a story, the Great American Novel, a really stupid story because I was young back in I don't know, high school or something, and no, it would have been earlier than that. Anyway, I remember writing the story, and this was before I hit puberty. That fact will be important here in a minute, so just bear with me. So I
Oh, sweet.
wrote this story about all these characters. It was kind of a fantasy adventure type of thing because that's what I liked. And I showed it to my mom, and she says, this is really interesting, Andrew, but one of the things I notice is that there is no sexuality anywhere. Not that she was expecting me to write a porno, but she noticed that none of my characters were married or in relationships or had children. They were just all individual people. But because at that point in my life, I didn't do any dating or relationships or marriage or kids or any of that. I was writing what I know. And it took me a while to realize that the book was really boring, or the story was really boring because these people were completely unrelatable. She was right. No one had a life. Everyone was a single childless person. Um, so you write what you know. These days, I would probably write exactly the same thing because when it comes to dating, I'm incredibly boring. But yeah, I think when you are a creator, I think it's important to have as varied, unless you're just doing one thing by yourself, but even when you are, I think it's important to bounce your ideas off of other people and try and get as many different perspectives as you can. I think that's one of the most fascinating things is getting alternate. And if anything, one of the Gamergate things I've admired the most is it has shown me perspectives that I had never even thought of before. And that's really what I like about even people I don't agree with is they provide new ways of thinking about things. One of my favorite things is I've talked about this before, but Seamus Young wrote a negative review of one of my favorite games, Resident Evil 4. But he described it. He's a very good writer, so I understood where he was coming from and why he didn't like what I consider one of the best games of all time. And I found that an absolutely fascinating read. So
No,
if you're a creative person, I highly recommend uh, getting as many people's perspectives on what you're doing as possible because they will get you to examine your work in a brand new way. And even if you still decide, no, I think my way is the best and stay the path, it may still give you ideas for different things to try in the future.
right.
So it's better, I think, to choose a path rather than go on that path because you had no idea there was any other way, if that makes any sense.
It
So,
does, at least to me.
okay, I think we are about done, and I do apologize for all the technical issues we had in the start of the show.
Yeah,
But
that was my fault.
yeah, it was totally Jeremy's fault. So, but anyway, Jeremy, thank you for sitting in for Zachary this week. Always nice to have you on the show.
I appreciate it. It's always a lot of fun to be on here, actually.
Good. How's your podcast going?
Pretty good. We're still trying to finish the last stuff. I'm in my last little bit of college, so we've kind of been off rails. I've been actually guest hosting on a local radio station here, the college one, for their geek edification hour, or nerdification hour. They're going to kill me for that. I keep saying geek. But they've had me on there, so it's kind of funny because it gets broadcast on TV, and I started getting messages like, "Oh, I saw you on TV," and I'm like, "Wait, they're broadcasting this?" But we're supposed to be getting our show back on probably later next week, covering some of this stuff right before E3 if we can, and then going into E3 itself, kind of kick it back in again.
Z2400 is bringing up a good point here. Why do we need to separate people of color and white? I don't see people by color or gender for me, and there are good people and bad people. For me, a person's a person. I don't see him or her as the black person or something like that. That's a good point. We shouldn't. We absolutely shouldn't. And there are a lot of people, and I include that don't see color. I just see person. I don't see white person, black person, what any other color person. I just see person.
Right.
The problem is in America, at least, we have a very healthy mix of different people. We have white people like me. We've got black people. We've got Asian people. We've got Canadians. We've got south of the border folks. Mexico. That's what's south of the border.
Mexican.
We've got all kinds of different people. We have this huge amount of different people. And we only have representation of white. That's a generalization. For the most part, we only have white people,
or light skin, as they say.
Light-skinned people in video games and media in general. If you watch most television shows, it's predominantly white, and that's not representative of the reality. Now, that's not saying that's not saying. Trying to phrase this correctly, and it's really difficult. Our media should be representative of reality.
Right.
But most of the actors we hire are white. Most of the characters are white. All the characters in games are white. Again, there should be just if only for variety's sake. Also, it probably sucks as a person of color because it gives you the impression, I would imagine, that you have no place. As I alluded to earlier, if every single character, for the most part, in video games and media was a black person, would I feel excluded? Would I feel like someone's trying to erase me out of existence? I don't know. I would like to think we're all, well, you know, we're all people, so it doesn't matter that we are focusing on one color. Or maybe that's the problem, is that we are inadvertently, almost assuredly, focusing on one color to the exclusion of the others. You know, I don't think we need to focus on it. I don't think we need to make a big deal out of it. I just think everyone should be represented, if only for variety's sake, if only to make games more appealing to more people. So,
or just to let everyone see more of other cultures and other people. I mean, if you just focus on only what you look like or your type of people, that's all you're ever going to see. You're never going to learn anything else. You're never going to experience anything else from anyone else.
Matthew brings up an interesting point that Witcher 3 wasn't made in the U.S. It's made in Eastern Europe, which is not as mixed as we are here in America. Which is exactly. But on the flip side, The Witcher 3 is a global game. So it behooves CD Projekt Red to recognize that not everyone's a white person, and they're going to want to see more representation in games. And this is actually a really easy thing to do. You just have to think of it. If you don't think of it, and now I mean it's impossible to do now that the game is done. I wouldn't say now CD Projekt Red, you go back into your dev studio and you fix your representation stuff. No. But now that CD Projekt Red is actually thinking about this stuff, I think they might approach it differently in the future, or they may do exactly the same thing. Who knows? Yeah. So
I mean, nowadays they could go in, they could do a patch, they could change some of those things about the game. Be like, okay, for some of the language of like what the women are being called and so forth, they could go in and add a setting to change that. You know, okay, if you don't want to hear this part, you can disable it, or you know, maybe tone it back some if they want to, or just change the textures of some of the people. Nowadays, they could do that.
Yeah. It would be. I think it would be way too expensive to be worth removing gendered slurs if that's something they want to do. That would be hard because you'd have to re-record.
To go back, get stuff, re-record.
Oh, damn it, people! Stop making good points when we're trying to close the show. Z2400 says, "How come most of the bad guys in games and movies are from the Middle East? Why not play as a hero from the Middle East?" Again, this is a great point. This is another problem we have is we tend to look at particular, a lot of times we'll make women or people of color into the bad guy, or exoticize, is that the right word? Exoticize them in some way that makes them this foreign mystical beast. And for example, a lot of people look at anyone from Iran as, or anyone who is Muslim as a terrorist. There are a lot of people, because in a lot of our media, we see we see that a lot. You know, the Middle Eastern enemy, bad guy, terrorist thing. And obviously, when you stop and think about it, well, wait a minute, they're not all terrorists, right? That's kind of impossible. So, what if we had a video game that it takes place in the Middle East and stars a Middle Easterner? That would be great.
Prince of Persia.
You know, Prince of Persia, Persian lead. I have no idea what I don't know how white or dark-skinned Persian people is supposed to be. I've never been to Persia, but we do have Kamala Khan, the Miss Marvel in the Marvel universe, who's a Muslim character, which is really cool. So yeah, we do tend to you know, white guys are the good guys. Darker colored skinned people are the foreigners, the bad guys that we need to, you know, keep over there because they're just the bad guys, which is really troubling in some respects. So yeah, excellent excellent drop-ins, folks. So
yeah, part of it's kind of like the whole national view. Like during World War II, they tried to vilify, you know, Japan and a lot of people in like movies and cartoons, and sadly, some people still kind of do that now. They have the overbroad. Hey, Jennifer. Sorry, my daughter just came up.
One of the things I like, if you've ever seen the movie Tora Tora Tora, it's mostly about the Japanese bombing of Pearl Harbor. But one thing I really admired about the movie, hopefully I've got the right movie here, is it shows it from both perspectives and shows that it wasn't you know, U.S. good guys, Japan's bad guys. The whole thing was just a horrible thing that happened. Everyone was human. Everyone was fallible. A lot of bad decisions were made and horrible things happened. That's one thing I really admire about that movie, is it doesn't paint U.S. good guys, Japan bad guys. It's more, it's more nuanced than that. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Matthew says, yeah, quote, the other is something that we tend to make our media, when I say we, I mean our media, tends to paint minorities as the other.
Why it's more important. We should see more representation of different groups. You know, so everybody is, it's just another, it's people, not just others, as you're stating.
And Z24 says, how about a Russian lead? Blizzard, I think their game Overwatch just added a, in response to people pointing out that half your characters are females. That's really cool. A critique might be they all have exactly the same body type. So Blizzard appeared to have gone, well, shit, you're right. We made 6 of exactly the same woman. Oops. Now, to be fair, they did have varied ages. They did have different ethnicities, which is very cool. But they were all pretty much exactly the same body type. So they made a heavy woman, a big Rosie the Riveter, muscular woman who is Russian, and really cool character design. I really like her. Very broad in its depiction of Russian, but very kind of the
but at least they're doing
Russian.
something.
I mean, it goes very broad in its depiction of Russian. It's very in Soviet Russia, bench press you. You know, that
Yeah.
kind of humor, but the whole game is painted like that, so it works.
It's
Um,
sometimes hard for a developer to make a character where they want to represent something, but they're trying not to cross that line where it becomes almost stereotypical, you know?
yeah, and I think a
They're
game
trying to
that
dance
really
around it.
rides that line really well is Punch Out. If you've played especially the
I love Punch
remake for
Out.
the Wii, oh
Yes.
man, that any further and it might be offensive, but it's done in such a loving way that I don't think many people were truly, oh, that you know, Glass Joe is really offensive as a Frenchman. I I
When you
don't
knock them
think
out,
so.
thoughts go everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, because as far as I know, there's no French stereotype of having a glass jaw or being weak. Um, all the stereotypes are "Vive la France" and baguettes and things like that. So, um, but sometimes we screw up, and I think some people look at going back to Overwatch. They first released 10 or 12 characters, really varied, and they had half of them were women of varying ethnicities and varying ages. They had one who was 18, and they had one who was in her 40s. Oh my God! When's the last time you saw a playable female character in her 40s? It's amazing. And then people said, you know what? They all have the same body type. And you could hear the internet roll its eyes. It's like, are you never happy? Do you have to complain about everything? And that's not really what's happening here. We're, as we always critique, there is always room for improvement. There is always something to critique. You can make the bestest game ever. Look at all the rated 10 or games that have a 10-point rating. Ocarina of Time, Uncharted 2, Grand Theft Auto 4. These are games that got perfect 10s. And yet, there are a lot of critiques you still can make. Now, that doesn't make you necessarily a nitpicker or a fault finder or someone who's never happy with anything. It's just what we do. We say, all of this is great. Here's where we can do better. So I think there is always value in there is value in not settling for what we get and always striving to push it to be better. Because if we ever settle for what we get, we're just going to get the same damn thing over and over, and it's going to get really, really dull, really, really fast.
Yep. And Z2400 points out that Punch Out Wii was made in Canada, and there is a Canadian that is a woodcutter. So they kind of stereotype themselves.
Who likes maple syrup and fish. Although, if I may, real quick, I was kind of disappointed in the Wii version because a Disco Kid was the only new character. I remember watching the trailer and reading the previews, and they had Von Kaiser, Glass Joe, Hungry Hippo, King Hippo, and the new one, Disco Kid. And I loved the updates to the classic characters, and I saw the new character, and I was like, oh man, that is so cool. I can't wait to see what else they've got in store for other new characters.
Nope, that was it.
That was it. That was the only new character in the entire game, and I was... Now,
more of a reimagining than it was
it is a reimagining, and the characters are so up. I mean, did anyone really remember Aaron Ryan from Super Punch Out? I sure did. I went, who? But I hope that series comes back because that game has some incredible animation. It's just a ton of fun. Anyway, let's get out of here before stop making awesome comments that we have to comment on. You
I don't know if you saw Andrew. My daughter popped in for a second to say hello.
That's right. Okay, so let us plug our stuff and get out of here. So Andrew Eisen here, Eisen is the last name. Plug it into YouTube and you'll find my YouTube channel where I just finished my 30 Days of Netflix series where I watched a new movie on Netflix each day and talked about it. Donkey Kong is not a new character, well, new to Punch Out, but that's true. Donkey Kong was a playable secret character, I guess, in Punch Out, and he was cool. Follow me on Twitter at Andrew Eisen and like me on Facebook, Andrew Eisen YouTube. Jeremy, plug away.
Well, you can look for me under Jeremy Powers, and you'll find some other cyclists. So to actually find me, look for Zenspath, Zenspath. We're at zenspath.com. We do our Zenspath podcast, which is on iTunes when we actually get it done. Talk to me on Twitter. I'm on there pretty much all the time at Zenspath. And some of our YouTube stuff when we do it is Zenspath.com. I couldn't put a period, so yeah, hit us up.
All right. You've been listening to episode 146 of Super Podcast Action Committee. We stream live every Saturday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on GamePolitics.com and my YouTube channel. You can email us at superpackpodcast@gmail.com, follow us on Twitter at superpackpodcast, and like us on Facebook. Subscribe and rate us on iTunes. We'll be back there someday, we swear. So until then, friends, take care, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
See you guys.